Hello, welcome to the Edmunds CarCast podcast. I'm Matt, the moderator, Deandra, here with Alistair Weaver. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Matt. I even went to try surfing this morning. So I'm
Did
getting
you?
fully into my Southern Californian existence. It was a
How
beautiful
did it
morning.
go? Was it cold?
No, it's beautiful. It's like the Mediterranean. It's absolutely gorgeous. The water
Yeah.
temperature's 70 odd degrees, hardly any waves, which is good for me. So I just kind of sat on the board, meditated for an hour, did a bit of breathing,
Called it surfing, came back in.
Yeah, I fell over a couple of times, came back in. It was marvelous. No, it was
You're going to
beautiful.
start doing it all the time because you realize when you're surfing, quote, surfing, there's no cell phone or anything out floating in the water with you. So you get a nice little hour to bobble around like a buoy out there, just going, hey, no one's texting, no one's calling, no one can reach me.
It is beautiful. I mean, I remember I had the same feeling of when I used to race cars, and particularly, a lot of us, I was running my own business at the time, and it was really stressful. And then you would go out for a practice session on a Friday or whatever, and for that half-hour window, and you did normally 4.5 hours a day, you're on your own, your helmet's on, you've got to concentrate, you've got the adrenaline running, and it was like the best therapy. I was very, very expensive therapy, but very, you need a sponsor therapy, but it was epic. And surfing has a little bit of that about it that you
Yeah.
can't, you're nervous a little bit that you stayed out too long and you're going to get, told off when you get back home. But no, it's a beautiful thing, even
Yeah.
if you're too old and too tall and too uncoordinated to do it properly.
Do you own a surfboard?
I own a 10-foot foam board, which is like if you want to shout, I mean, I might as well have like a wetsuit with like, inept beginner written on across my chest because
Yeah.
like a bright blue 10-foot foam board does say, stay away.
Yeah. Okay.
I got shouted at, and a few months ago I was going out and the waves were too big for me and I was flailing around, but I managed to kind of like get up once, and then I went towards the beach. Some guy came across and we nearly hit each other, and he went nuts because apparently I should have seen him at his right away. I don't know. Anyway, I turned around and in my best British accent said, I'm sorry, dude. And he turned around to me and he said, don't dude me.
Wow. It's a controversy on the beach.
Controversial. I was like, hey, Zen, it's all good.
Yeah. Did you see the sign on my chest that said
Yeah,
inept
exactly.
surfer,
It's like
inept beginner?
if I'd been able to see you, if I had like the self-awareness and the
Right.
spatial awareness to know that you were coming, I would have jumped off and kindly got out of the way, but I didn't see you, and
Did you
quite
see
clearly
I was
I'm
on a
inept.
10-foot pool noodle
Yeah,
coming at you? You should have known better.
exactly. Oh, that's
Um,
intolerant.
okay, so I wanted to pick your brain, the collective Edmunds brain about something. We were exploring some of these deals that are out, especially with EV tax credits ending in about a month. And we have spoken, you and I, on the air about some aggressive deals, a billboard on the side of the freeway over here. It says Honda Prologue, 159 a month. And
Sure.
I called the Honda dealer and I said, "What's the deal? I'm interested." And they said, "Okay, but just so you know, it's going to be about 6,000 down." And they're like, "You got to read the fine print." I was like, okay. So that kind of brought up the issue of leasing and transparency and what does it really mean to get into the car. I mean, 6,000 down, by the way, is 2 to 3 times the down payment of comparable vehicles. You'd see them anywhere from 2,000 to maybe 3,500 down, somewhere around there. So yeah, if you're going, hey, it's 159 a month, but it's 6,000 down, it's a 24-month lease. Really, how much am I paying overall for the whole package for that to own that vehicle for 2 years versus something that might be, 250, 300 a month and half the down payment, so sort of how to navigate that and don't get too caught up in the low payment at first because there could be a big down payment. Now, you can make the down payment effectively feel less impactful if you have a trade. If you're going to the Honda dealer and you've got a used car and it's worth 6 grand and they go, we'll give you 6 grand for your trade. So now you're at zero down and 159 a month. You're like, wow, that's a good deal. But you did just give them your car.
Yeah, so you've just got to look at it in the round, and it's the old-fashioned trick. I mean, you're driving down the 405, you've got this huge billboard that
Yeah.
says, you know, $80 a month, and you go, wow, let's get one of those. Even I can afford that. And then, yeah, you get into fine print, and that's with, $15,000 down, sir. So it is a trick. 'Cause you've got to think about the lease. Effectively, it's what am I paying for the time that I will have that vehicle? And
Yeah.
most leases today are either typically 36, but a lot, particularly on the EV side, a lot of the deals on offer are actually for 24 months. So you've got to basically look at what is my down payment plus what is my monthly payment, total it up, and then divide it by the number of months that you will
You'll
have the
own that
vehicle,
car.
and
Yeah.
that's the de facto cost of the vehicle. So we've been looking at this kind of not we have a lot of, obviously, at Edmunds we have a crazy amount of data, and how can we kind of populate this and how can we manipulate this data? So for a long time we've done a page which was like 199 lease deals or 299 lease deals, and now we have this hidden gems page. Now I was talking to our product team this morning and said, if you're going on there and talking about this is a early prototype, and with the best over the air updates it will get better and better. But if you Google Edmunds hidden gems and then tap in your postcode, it will actually bring up your zip code, I should say. It will actually bring up all the best deals in your area. And what we're showing is the due at signing, and then the monthly lease cost. But what we're also doing, if you're watching on YouTube, you can actually see this in the picture where it says gem deal. We're actually calculating based on some complex maths in the background how good a deal this actually is. And typically, the way the leasing industry works, I'm going to try and explain this in very simple terms, is you are looking at a measure of how long it would take you to pay down the MSRP of that vehicle. So you can basically add up the down payment plus the lease costs, compare that to the cost plus the monthly cost, compare that to the overall MSRP of the vehicle, and work out how long it would take to pay down the full MSRP. And that gives you a measure of how good the deal is. This is used across the industry. It sounds complicated. It's actually not that complicated. And behind the scenes, this is what our gem deal notification is actually doing. It's basically looking at the overall price of the vehicle, looking at the cost of the lease, calculating whether it is a good deal or a bad deal. And then also, in the case of the Tacoma that you got on screen, Matt, is giving you an idea as to where this sits relative to the rest of the market.
Right.
So in this example, there's a 24 Toyota Tacoma. So obviously they're trying to probably clear out some of the 24 stock. Due at signing 3 grand, 219 a month, which looks like a great deal. Not a huge amount down at signing. And we're saying, look, this is $318 below average per month. So yes, you're buying a 24, not a 26 as we're almost into, but it's still a brand new vehicle, still a great vehicle. And frankly, Toyota didn't change it in the meantime. So that to me looks like a really good deal. And so it starts to sound complicated, but I think if you're just shopping, the two critical things that you need to look at: how much am I paying at signing? How much is it going to cost me a month going forward? How long is the lease deal? Typically 24 or 36 months. And then have a look at this page and we'll give you an indication as whether we think it's a good deal or not.
Yeah. Okay. I I think I'd like to see some of the math for me. I'd like to see the 219 a month times 36 plus the due
So,
at
so,
signing and just go, here's the total for my 36 months.
so if you look at the view full program details, Matt, we give you a little bit more
Very good.
information on the page. You've also got to look at how many miles. I mean, typically these deals are done on
Yeah.
10,000 miles. You can sometimes reduce the lease cost by, maybe it's just going to be running around a city and you're only going to do 5,000 or 8,000 miles a year. I think my lease is on 8,000 miles because we don't take the car that far beyond LA. There's all these little factors that you can use to tune the lease cost. So, if you're only going to do 5,000 miles a year, don't buy 12,000 miles a year because you're not going to see that money back.
Yeah.
And of course, there are the caveats that, to some extent, this depends on your credit rating. If you've got bad credit, you're not going to get access, sadly, to the best deals. But I guess that applies to everything in life, unfortunately.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, if you go to this page, start here, start where you type in your zip code because it will be different in different areas, for sure.
You would be surprised actually from state to state how different it can be. I mean, we've seen some extraordinary lease deals on like Dodges in Colorado, which you just can't get in California or,
Yeah.
so Detroit or anything else. I mean, there's like a Hornet here as we're going through. I mean, this is kind of a good example. 2024 Dodge Hornet. Uh, you know, Maybe not the sexiest car in the world, but $99 a month with, three and a half down. That's still a lot of car for not a lot of money.
Yeah.
And you've got a brand new car with a warranty. Wrangler 4XE, 4 grand down, 149 a month. That is just for 2 years. So in 2 years' time, you got to go through this process again. ID4. I mean, ID4 is particularly after the sort of refresh that they did of it. That's a pretty decent vehicle. 2,500 down, 129 a month. I mean, we're saying that's $402 a month below average. So that's a cracking deal for 2 years. And even if you're just having that deal for 2 years, that's a lot of car for 2 years. The other thing you've got to bear in mind, a lot of these we're looking down are EVs, is what is happening at the end of September. All the tax credits go away.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see what happens to these deals at the end of September. This is going to be the big conundrum for the manufacturer because suddenly your 200 a month deal will become 400 a month just because you've got to absorb another $7,500. So what happens then? Do the manufacturers support it? Do they put more money against it? Or, do all these lease deals go up? So, I mean, honestly, if you're in the market for an EV, now is a good time. No question. Looking at these deals, it's like, wow.
Yeah. Take into account that tax credit and that gets rolled into a reduction on the price of the vehicle that you're leasing.
That's right. In very simple terms, if the vehicle's 40 grand, it's 7.5 grand off that. So suddenly the deal is worked out on 32,500, not 40,000. And then come October the 1st, the deal will be worked out on 40,000. So you do get this kind of compound effect. But what's striking as well is you kind of tend to imagine that the mega deals will be on old cars. We mentioned like a couple of 24s, which are probably still sitting around in inventory. But looking at this list of our deals, and this, bear in mind, is in California, the EV center of the universe. Hyundai Ioniq 9, that's a brand new vehicle.
Yeah.
And, not only is it a brand new vehicle, it's a brand new, very, very good vehicle that we rate really highly. 5,000 down is quite a bit down, but then it's only 279 a month for a big three row electric SUV with with an MSRP of over 60 grand.
Hmm.
So that's a hell of a deal. And
Yeah.
it's not, and it's also not just mainstream brands. We're seeing
And it's not
Audi
all
Q.
EV. There's good deals on EVs, but not everything has to be EV. There's some pretty decent uh,
Yeah, Audi
deals on the
Q4
list.
e-tron 359 with admittedly a fair bit down, but yeah, Mitsubishi Outlander plug-in hybrid. It's based on the Nissan Rogue. Again, maybe not a class-leading vehicle. Maybe we don't look at it and say this is, the best vehicle. But frankly, if there's a mega deal to be done, Mazda CX-70. I mean, these are, Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. These are some good, some great choices. Hyundai Tucson is a fantastic vehicle.
Now, there
Yeah,
are,
I mean, the other thing at the moment is, of course, we're moving from 25 to 26. So a lot of dealers are starting to get the 26 model years in. So you always have this little bit of a sell-off of the 25s.
yes, and then there is some other fine print you got to look at. So you can do the research online or speak to the dealer. But for example, in like with the Honda, the 159 a month, uh, that deal is to get people to switch from a current manufacturer to Honda.
Right.
So that deal is effective if you own certain cars, certain makes and model cars, and they have a list that needs to be 2010 or newer from their list of cars. Otherwise, It's a little bit more, like it's 199 or 189 or whatever it is. So you kind of have to look at the fine print of the details, but also it's like, what does it matter what you previously own if if you're not trading it in? I mean, if you are trading it in, then I guess it does matter. But if you're not trading it in, is that lease still valid? You know, so you kind of have to look at the fine print, which we discovered
And
recently.
also, it's still, in a lot of these cases, there's still negotiation to be done.
Yeah,
So it's not like even if we're publishing this and you go into dealer, then yeah, there's always little nuances of the deal. There's still a conversation to be had. And we were talking just before we came on air about the Mustang Mach-E, and I remember looking to buy, to lease one of those just as we were coming out of the pandemic and being quoted $900 a month, and kind of being deciding that that was absolutely not going to happen. And now they're like 250 a month.
yeah,
It's and so why. We talked last week, Ford lost $5.1 billion last year on its EV program. There's a reason, right? You've gone from
yeah,
900 bucks, at which point Ford's making a profit, dealers making a profit, happy days, to 250 a month. Dealers not making barely any money. Ford's making zero money. They're losing money.
yeah.
So it's, the only win there is actually the consumer. So if you are the consumer right now, it's not a bad time. It's a pretty good time, actually.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, like we were saying, you kind of have to dig into the fine print. This is a great page that you guys are working on. Again, it's edmunds.com/lease deals, right?
Yeah, or just Google Edmunds Gem Deals. Both will take you there. It's also quite good sport, isn't it? Like it's always kind of, I get this every week, and we do a newsletter every Saturday, which also you can sign up for. It's a good plug. You can sign up to our deals newsletter every Saturday, and it's always fun just to see like what crazy deals are out there.
Yeah.
I mean, like Ionic 9, I would never have guessed that they had like a mega deal on that at the moment, just because it's a brand new, highly rated vehicle.
Yeah. All right. That's good.
There you go. Sensible shopping advice. Last week we had Bugatti's president. This week, sensible shopping advice.
Sensible shopping advice. We're gonna take a short break, and then I want to get into an interesting list of vehicles that we are not going to see any longer. So we'll be right back. Okay, so another Edmunds list that you guys have been compiling. This is really out of convenience for us. This isn't like, hey, what have you guys been working on? Should we talk about it on the podcast? I was actually thinking more like, why don't we talk about lease deals? And you're like, we have a page for that. It's like, great. Now I don't have to write down a whole bunch of notes. You guys can write it all down for us. But deals, cars that, not deals, cars that we're not going to see, cars that are getting
Yeah.
discontinued,
Probably good deals, actually. Probably
probably
good
good
deals on a
deals
few
as
of these if
well.
there's stock left. Yeah.
All right, where do we begin?
Begin with, yeah, this is so we
Yeah,
basically just, I mean, this is obviously I was talking about earlier. This is the model year change point. We're going from 25s to 26. And everybody gets obsessed with having the latest and greatest. Actually, one final point on the shopping advice that I didn't say is it's well worth looking at Edmunds or even the manufacturer website and working out, is there a difference between 25 and 26 model year? Because a lot of the time nothing changes, or they might have a new shade of blue.
right.
But sometimes, particularly on the EVs, there will be, maybe it's got a bigger screen, or they've got this, or they've changed the battery. So it's always worth just checking out that if you look at the Ionic 6, for example, the deals are on the 2025, but that car's having a mid-cycle refresh, which actually makes quite a big difference to the aesthetics and everything else. So, in that case, yeah, there's mega deals because basically it's now an old car. In other examples like the
Yeah,
Tacoma, off the top of my head, I don't think Toyota's done anything to that car because it's basically a brand new truck. So, maybe there's a fresh coat of different shade of paint. So I think it's worth. That's the only thing. It's just worth doing a little bit of research. And if you go to Edmunds, we actually do list everything that changes by model year. So that's the only caveat.
and if cars have been sitting around the lots, we're really kind of looking at 24, 25, and 26.
Well, the days to turn. That's a day. I mean, the auto industry is full of data points, and that's another
Yeah.
data point that we track is like days to turn. And we know that the Mustang Mach-E, for example, days to turn is I haven't got the exact figures, but last time I looked, I think it was over 200 days. And what days to turn means is dealers receive that, dealer has car is sitting on dealer lot for more than 200 days before car is sold. I mean, it's still sold as a new car,
Yeah.
but whereas other cars, Lexus GX springs to mind. They can't build them fast enough. Toyota Grand Highlander can't build them fast enough. That means, good deals to be out. The dealer wants to get this, you know,
Yeah.
wants his car part back.
Right. He wants to get the new inventory, the space. If you think about it, it all adds up as costs to that dealer the longer those cars are there.
Yeah, and maybe depending on how it's financed, and there's all sorts of equations that feed into it.
And if you, it doesn't sound like a lot of time, but yeah, when there's that much time, there are some changes to the vehicle. I think you guys got the new Tesla Model 3 and you were talking about how it's significantly better ride quality, more comfortable in the
Yeah, I
back.
mean,
The Model 3 was always kind of bumpy in the back, especially around LA where there's so many that are Uber drivers and you're in the back, you're like, this is
yeah, Model Y
terrible back.
actually even more than Model 3 is like
Yeah.
revolutionary how much better the ride is. So yeah, it's like all things automotive. You got to do your homework. A lot of the times these deals like Ionic 9, brand new car, mega deal. You know, Ionic 6, you're buying the old car, but it's actually still a good car.
Yeah.
You're just not getting the new version of it. So, all these things you've just got to weigh up. But guess that's why we exist.
Okay, let's take a look at this list. Let's see what's going on.
Okay.
What are we gonna miss that's exciting on this
I was
list?
going to say what we're going to miss. So we're going to talk Acura TLX. Are we going to miss that? Probably not so
I
much.
no, probably not. Not with Integra. Is Integra staying around for a little while longer?
Well, yeah, I mean, TLX is sort of bigger. It was bigger than that, but I mean, they barely sell it. And nobody buys those sort of
Yeah.
like larger sedans. I mean, I know Camry still sells, but TLX not so much. Audi A4 S4. Well, that's just a bit of a name change, to be honest. It's now going across to the A5 and the S5.
Yeah.
And that's I've driven those. I mean, it's kind of they went through this period which I think they've now scrapped where even numbers were going. I think this is right. Even numbers were going to EVs, odd numbers were going to be gas. And I think everybody said this is ridiculous. We can't. Nobody can remember what this means. And so I think they've got rid of that. But in the meantime, the A4 has become the A5. So it's dying, but kind of not. In that there's the new A5, which is
Yeah.
actually quite nice.
Right. That's more of a lateral move, I think. We just name changing.
Correct. It's a sideways. It's a sideways step.
BMW, interesting. M8, which I like, but I don't see a lot, so maybe not a huge loss there, but I do like that vehicle. BMW XM, that's the ugly one that's rolling around, I think. Right? It's
Yeah.
also kind of confusing.
So no, M8. I think I will miss. I actually really
I
like
do
the. I think
miss
it's
it. Yeah,
really
I
cool
like
that
the M8.
the four-door version as well. I was like, if you want a family, like me, you've got kids, you got to. If you don't want to buy an SUV, but you want some, you got money and you want something that's like the Panamera choice, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
something that gives you potentially the best of all worlds. I've had a soft spot for the M8. I think it's probably the best looking BMW at the moment, and it's always been good to drive. So yeah, M8 Coupe is long. You still get a four-door M8. Presumably
Yeah.
they've just got some stock
But
running.
I do like the coupe. I like the look of the coupe more.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
they've got because the proportions you put four doors and it's always a bit confusing to the eye. BMW XM, so they're going to keep going. I think with I think it's just they call it a red label trim, which is like the flagship one. Honestly, when people say like, "What's one of the worst cars that you've driven in recent years?" XM, I just thought was even BMW quietly will admit that it's basically a poser's car for certain parts of LA or the Middle East.
Yeah, it's a little confusing. It's a little confusing. Um, okay, X4. Yeah, so the X4 because X3 is such a big seller, right? And
Yeah,
we're talking
X4 was
about
that X4 was that sort of we kind of look a bit
the
like a
the
coupe, a bit like a
yeah, the
sedan, a
coupe
bit like an
version of like an
SUV.
X3.
Yeah, not. I don't
Um,
think it'll be missed.
Cadillac XT6, but we kind of knew what was going on with the Cadillacs that are doing refreshing the lineup of pretty much everything. So no one's gonna miss the XT6. I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to miss the XT6. It's the only thing that I think Cadillac's got an issue with now is, they've gone all in on EVs and the Vistique we talked about last week. Love the new Vistique. Think it's a great vehicle. Um, it's just that will they miss a gas three row? Maybe. Well, they've got the
Looking
Escalade,
on
but that's a
the
big.
Ford side, Ford Escape, Lincoln Corsair. Ford Escape is the street version of a Bronco Sport if you need a more street version of a Bronco Sport. And the Bronco Sport at least has some character and it seems to be selling. So do
Yeah,
we need a Ford Escape?
I think this is also part of that. Well, they struggle to sell it, and also, or they have to put a lot of money behind it to shift it. And I think what they've also, this whole no boring cars
Yeah.
idea. The Bronco Sport, as you say, is just like a kind of slightly cooler version of a Ford Escape anyway. So people will
Yeah.
just deal just by that. The Escape was always kind of a bit half-hearted anyway. It was like sort it's a pretty mediocre product that doesn't really. It's just another identikit SUV, and that whole market has been refreshed. RAV4's coming, CRV's already here, new CX-5. So it just feels very old and tired.
Although you could probably go get one pretty cheap. There's
You could
probably
get one. You could probably get one pretty cheap. And if you just want something, it's like a decent, honest vehicle.
yeah. Okay.
Corsair is the Lincoln version of the Escape. Electrified GV80, that's a real niche within a niche. G8 is a nice, this is the Genesis. G8 is a nice thing. The gas car will continue. EV was a bit left field. So again, probably not a big drama.
Yeah, it's interesting. So Hyundai and Kia is doing so much. They're having success in the EV space. And Genesis didn't really catch on, like the higher end versions of what they were doing. Like you said, the sedan never really caught on. The SUVs, like the GV60, kind of cool. I think the larger version, maybe they're working on a flagship GV90. I think they're working
Yeah,
on,
there's a lot of
but
rumors that they're doing a three row, like a posh three row,
yeah.
which I think will be a nice thing. It's
Although
funny we were talking about that. I drove the Hyundai Palisade this week, and I think we were planning to get more into this next week. But it's hard for Genesis because the Hyundais have got so good.
yeah,
Um,
and they're kind of price. I mean, there's deals on them, but the MSRP is kind of pricey on them.
yeah,
So,
the leap from
like
a
it's funny.
Hyundai to Genesis is pretty modest. There's quite a lot of crossover.
We're talking about it, and right here on the page is the ad for for the Hyundai Ioniq 9,
Yeah,
and it's like that's kind of what you would expect the Genesis to look like.
that's right. I mean, we talked about this show. We have our Genesis GV60 parked outside, and we had an Ionic 9 for the weekend. We were testing it. We went on a family vacation, and I was talking to my wife about it, and she's like, I honestly, like, I can barely tell the difference.
Yeah.
The Genesis has got a Bang& Olufsen hi-fi. The Hyundai's got a Bose. Does it really matter? Probably not. Um, Infinity QX50, QX55. Nobody's going to care, unfortunately, sadly.
And they've got the new, is it the QX 60,
Yeah, and
65
the
and the QX
QX60 is
80?
the QX60 is kind of only slightly bigger and only slightly more expensive. So there's no real value in keeping the rest of them on the books,
And we
and a
saw
lot of
the
their attention is
concepts
on
at the
QX80.
we saw the concepts at the Quail and Pebble for the two SUVs, the Infinity that Infinity had.
Yeah, Infinity. I mean, the QX8 and the new QX80, which is their sort of new direction of travel, is a nice, I think is a nice thing for a full size one. So again, it's just a tired old car, a bit like the Escape. Lexus RC, it's been around forever, 10 years old. Its
Yeah.
time is done, but it was always kind of cool. 5 liter V8.
Yeah, still sounded good.
Yeah.
Quick.
Might
Yep.
be a nice second-hand buy if you want a kind of luxury coupe and don't need that much space. EQB was pretty dreadful.
The Mercedes.
That's
Yeah, the Mercedes.
bye-bye. This is like a sad one. Porsche 718 Boxster and Cayman.
Yeah.
I think they screwed this up with putting the four-cylinder into it. I know at the time it was like we need to do something different and it's emissions and it's blah blah blah, but it was such a bad engine that just compromised that car so much. And then they did the GTS and they put the six cylinder back in, but then it was a load of money.
So this is going to be an interesting thing for Porsche because the Boxster and the Cayman are, the small sporty version, and you want that excitement, that feedback. You want to, hit that thing on a Sunday morning or Saturday morning. And switching this to EV versions, as the plan is, I think they're going to have a tough time resonating with the customer.
I I think it's going to be, and I think they know it now. I mean, I think they had a tough time resonating with the customer selling a four-cylinder Boxster because it
Yeah.
just didn't have that. A big part of Porsche is the noise. It's the fact that you've got that almost unique flat six howl, and even at low speeds, you feel it and hear it. And I just it just the four cylinder just never had that, and because of the mid-engine configuration, they couldn't do some of the tricks to improve the noise that they could in other vehicles. So, the GTS Boxster and GTS came in with the six-cylinder engine. I think that will go on to become collectible. And
Yeah.
obviously the GT4s and the GT4 RS as well. But I think sadly the four-cylinder car will just, will be instantly forgotten. And yeah, now they're going to do the electric one. I think it's been delayed a little bit, but how will that do? I mean,
Well, how's the Macan electric doing?
not great. I
Not
haven't looked at the
great.
latest figures, but not
Not
fantastic.
yeah. Funny because I try to see them on the road because the Macan, you're like, hey, this is kind of entry level, Porsche SUV-ish. So you see Macans everywhere, but when you get to the EV and it's expensive and it's just not quite connecting with the customer, I've seen a handful on the road. I just don't see that many, and maybe they're not standing out as much, but it has sort of the distinctive front end with no real sort of grill to it, so you can kind of tell that's the EV version. Not seeing a lot.
I think they certainly right. There's a lot of gas mechanics where I live, and if you are a bit of an affluent enthusiast, but you need a family vehicle, then that was almost the kind of if you could afford it, that was almost the default. You had the Porsche badge, it still felt like a Porsche, it drove fantastic, and that you could have that as your family car. And I just don't hear you don't hear people say, oh, I want the electric version. I think it's too expensive, too small in terms of not maybe the footprint, but the interior packaging is too small. They're going to have the electric Cayenne, which I think is going to be a great product, but a ton of money.
Yeah.
And then, in time, we're going to have an electric Boxster and an electric Cayman. I don't know.
I I I I think the magic recipe for an electric Cayman would be if you can get the Porsche characteristics that you're going to get in that thing, but if you can get a range closer to a lucid gravity, and so you can actually use that vehicle for, some more of a trip.
So,
If you can get
yeah, if you get the
a
form, the
Cayman
problem,
with 400 miles of range, 420 miles of
but,
range, that would be interesting.
but the problem with the technology at the moment, in order to do that, you're adding a ton of weight. And yes, you can do it in a way that probably doesn't compromise the handling too much because it'll be low down the car's center of gravity will be low. But sports cars, you want less and less weight,
Yeah.
not more and more. So you're going to have to trade that. You want to go far, you're going to have to put more battery, and also from a aesthetic perspective, what do you want your Boxster to look like? Because if you want to go far, you want it super aerodynamic, and you want this and that, and you end up looking like Ionic 6.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, we'll see what comes. I suspect it'll be good to drive. It'll have some Porsche characteristics. How much money is it going to be? We'll see. I mean, they're locked in on this now. They can't re-engineer that car for gas engines. So
Right.
what are you going to do? But then
And
the
then
Boxster and Cayman were always a bit niche anyway. We'll see. If you look at the sales figures, you always imagine because it's the cheapest they'd sell more. The reality is they don't. The 911 is still there.
still there.
The 911 is still the go-to Porsche, and I think people would rather buy a used 911 than a new Boxster.
Yeah, we should dig in to see how the GTS is selling, the hybrid 911. Uh,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
curious
because
if,
that's not really been pitched as a hybrid, really. It's just a go faster 911.
yeah.
And then the final one. Now this is one. Our final, just to wrap things up. Our final one on the list. I think is a bit sad. The Volvo S90.
Yeah.
Volvo is basically saying, look, we're all in on SUVs, but we're not going to do sedans. We're not even going to do wagons. I mean, Volvo without a wagon. What is Volvo without a wagon?
Yeah.
But S90, I just think it's just such a nice way to travel. I mean, what's
It's
it saying
sharp
here?
looking
They move
too.
like a pam.
It's sharp looking. I think it's a great looking car.
They sold 1,000. It's just, yeah, like this afternoon, I'm going to have to drive. It's Labor Day weekend. I'm going to have to drive like 3 or 4 hours for a couple of nights away with the family. This would be just a lovely way to
I
travel.
was gonna say this would be perfect for that.
This would be absolutely perfect. I'd much rather take one of these than the X3 that I am going to take. But yeah, no, nobody wants. No, maybe just people don't know about it. They haven't got any money to market it. People don't know about it. Nobody buys big sedans. Certainly Volvo big sedans. But you can find one of these in the used market. Volvo S90, lovely thing.
And I like a big sedan. But I was just we were just outside walking and someone pulled up in a 7 Series and I'm coming up behind it and I'm like 7 Series from the back, it's looking good. From the side, it's not bad. From the front, it's not good.
No,
and,
not good.
and it just got like as I was walking up behind it, it was like, oh, this is sharp. And I was like, it's getting worse. Every step closer to the front end is just getting worse. And
And it
I
also has
bet it's
a
an amazing, nice, large sedan that's comfortable and does everything right. But it just starting to get goofy in the front.
I spend quite a bit of time in the iX7, and unless you really need, which is the electric version, unless you really need the space, there's not much that it does that like an iX5 doesn't do. But I think that's the challenge. It's just, I mean, it has that like big cinema screen in the back, but again, like, how much are you actually going to use that? And the bit as
Right.
well, I don't,
To your point though, like if you get the bigger car, which could fit a bigger battery and it gave you a lot more range, then I would understand the difference between an i5 and an i7. But if the
yeah.
ranges are going to be within, 15 miles, 20 miles of each other, then do you need the bigger one? Is it worth the extra money? Is it really that much different, like you're saying?
Yeah,
No.
it's not,
If you
not,
said,
not,
hey,
not
the
really.
i5 is 280 miles of range and the i7 is 350 miles of range, but like, oh, what
Yeah.
what is going to make more sense now?
The other thing I like about that is that I don't see. I think it's on the. I think it's on the 7 Series that you get those illuminated BMW grills.
Yeah.
So I think the grill it looks a bit ridiculous anyway, where it's just got too large. But then when it's got this like LED ring around it, like I don't want to be somebody's billboard. I don't feel the need to drive down the highway and announce to the person in front, "Hey, I bought a very big BMW with a really ugly nose." I just don't get that. I mean, I know there's certain people out there who want to do the whole bling thing and want to shout Gucci from every pore of their body, but not me. Like, if you want me to, advertise your product, you can pay me to advertise it. I don't want, I don't need, a big LED badge on the front to tell people I'm driving a BMW.
Yeah. Yeah, and it sort of accentuates the ugly nose. Like you're going, I don't like the design of this.
Yeah.
But the beauty is at night people notice it more.
Yes.
Right. So there you go. Um, all right. So what do you say? We're gonna wrap things up. You're gonna, as we're recording this on a Friday and heading out to a long weekend, you're taking the family, like as you said, in the X5 road trip.
X3.
X3. I still have a Ranger Raptor, so we got to Google desert near me, dirt near me. Google, where is it? Where's the
You
off
go to
road?
Roa Flats or something. Yeah, there's a few nice places around here.
Yeah, Gorman, which I haven't
Yeah.
been out there, but that
Take a
that might
picnic.
be
It's going to be hot as hell if you go out there, but take a picnic. Nice.
yeah,
Bit of
yeah.
tailgating. I'm going to
Anyway,
sit
I
in
was told that's
traffic.
where we should go.
I'm going south from LA on a holiday weekend Friday, so there's every chance we'll be recording next week's show from the traffic jam. So
Right?
the rest of the family will go to sleep, or they'll read, or they'll play with their phone, or whatever. I'll
Yeah.
just be.
All right. Well, listen. Have a good weekend. We'll see you guys next week, everybody. I mean, guess you're listening to this on a Monday, so hopefully you had a good Labor Day or having a
Yeah.
good Labor Day weekend. Until next time, keep the air in the spare and the bag in the wheel.